Welcome back to Observing the Sabbath. I'm your host, Nathaniel Molnar, and this is it. We're kicking off our look at Black Sabbath's fourth studio album, aptly titled Volume 4. Now, originally they were going to call it Snowblind after the song, of course, Snowblind on the B-side, but the studio was not going to let them call their album such an obvious reference to cocaine, so they called it Volume 4 instead, which I would have been perfectly fine if they called it Snowblind. I would have been perfectly fine if they called it Supernaut or any of the other songs on the album. I do think Volume 4 is pretty, it's not the most original title, but it fits for what this is. So I think it's a cool title. I think it's a cool album cover. I just kind of enjoy in general. And I've alluded to this throughout, but Volume 4 is my favorite of the Black Sabbath albums, at least right now. One thing I've noticed about myself is my opinion on what's the best song, what's the best album, what's the best this, what's the best that is always changing. It's always fluid. For a long time, I held Sabotage to be my favorite album, and then it wasn't until I got Volume 4 on vinyl and listened to it all the way through as a record that I really came to realize, no, this is my favorite album as a whole. And Sabotage is probably maybe 2 or something like that. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head. I'd have to sit down and think about it a little bit more. But Volume 4 is just fantastic. I absolutely adore this album, and I'm very excited to get into it and talk about all of these different songs. So we're going to kick things off today with Wheels of Confusion. Now, I'm going to throw this over to you guys because I really want to know from you. On Spotify, whenever I listen to this, and I can't remember if it's actually on the record or not, whether it's labeled this way, but when you bring up this song on Spotify, it's Wheels of Confusion / The Straightener. And while I kind of know from all of the, on Black Sabbath, the original album, or Master of Reality, why it has sort of the multiple names, because it's the different parts that they're putting together, I've never quite understood why Wheels of Confusion is also / The Straightener. So if you guys have any sort of answers or know of why that's also part of the name, or if it's just like they were just kind of fucking around, they're like, oh, let's also call it The Straightener. I don't know. If you guys have any answers to that, please let me know in the comments section. But we're going to dive into this song, and this is one of, if not my favorite Black Sabbath song, period. For a while, it was my favorite Black Sabbath songs. I don't know if it still is. I've been saying multiple times that once I finish going through all the albums, I'm going to sit down and actually do a official ranking, song by song by song, all the songs that Black Sabbath has done. So I don't know what it will be when I actually do that in, 20 years from now, when I actually get through all the albums. But as of now-ish, I mean, if it's not my number one, it's certainly like up there. Wheels of Confusion is just phenomenal. So I don't want to say any more. Let's just get right into it. This is Wheels of Confusion. And now, immediately we just start right into it. No fade in, we're just right into it. There's so many great riffs in this song. Tony really just packs this song just filled with great riffs. And I love this riff. It's slow, it's methodical. You get a lot of this throughout the album. Like Snowblind has a lot of those sort of long form riffs. In like Paranoid, the album, you have a lot of songs that are very fast paced. Like Paranoid itself is a very fast-paced song, and you have very fast riffs, whereas Volume 4 has a lot more of these kind of flowing riffs, where it just kind of takes its time. I love the lyrics in this song. It's very interesting and existential. And then Tony brings it back. It's a great riff. There's a lot of like very consistent themes throughout this album in terms of what they're, you know, singing about and speaking about. There's a lot of like looking at life in its entirety and sort of just going through and looking at sort of the facades that people have about life and existence and kind of stripping it away to its bare essence of we're on this earth and we're gonna live, and this earth is just spinning and it'll keep spinning once you're dead. You get into some of that with Under the Sun, kind of talking about people ruling the nation, and you just laugh at their frustration. You go a lot into sort of the mind, and you have Cornucopia, talks about, you know, the heaviness of someone's mind. There's a lot of really interesting themes on this album. And this is where the song picks up. I always talk about what would be the mosh moment in certain songs. Like, what was the moment where the mosh pit would just start going, and it's that part for this song. And I love that little just sort of part on Tony's end. Now this is a really interesting part, because it does slow down, and you just have like these really interesting sounds, like that part, the little, like, there's just like really interesting things going on. There's a lot, like I mentioned at the top, that this song is just packed. They just have so many interesting things going on, and I think what you can tell is, and I've talked about this numerous times as we went through the first 3 albums, the first 2 albums were them essentially recording their live sets. These were the sets that they had on stage that they did, and they recorded essentially that. Then, when you got to Master of Reality, they were actually in the studio, recording, fine-tuning, you know, really creating an album as opposed to just recording their live set. Now, once you get to Volume 4, and essentially, and really you can hear it in this song so much, you have them sort of marrying the two, in that you have sort of the visceral feel of them playing their live show, but you can also see how they're crafting these albums and creating it, as opposed to just recording it. And it feels so much more intricate, and it feels more deliberate, and you can tell what they're exactly going for. And just how smart they are in terms of how they link the songs together, how they float between riffs, and how they really incorporate so many different elements into the song themselves. I love this whole part. And you know there's never been a winner. Try your hardest, you'll still be the loser. It's a great part. Now we're kind of getting to the point where, what I would imagine, if we're actually going to distinguish these as Wheels of Confusion and the Straightener, where we're kind of, the Wheels of Confusion end and the Straightener begins, which is right about here. And I love this whole next part. It's so good, because the song feels like it's over, and then it comes in strong. And you just kind of get this like little jam session. And it's such a great way to open the album. If you really think about Wheels of Confusion as the opening song, you have this sort of, you know, slower riff, and then you have these great lyrics and these interesting things, and then you just kind of transition into this sort of long-form jam session. Like, we're looking at the next 2 or so minutes is just sort of just them just jamming and playing around. I love the drums. Tony's just so great. See, something I love about Tony is that he finds very unique ways to do guitar solos, because if you look at a lot of songs, you kind of have, there's not Sabbath songs, but just songs in general. There's a very sort of structure to it where you have the chorus, you have the verse, you have this verse, and then you have the chorus, and then you have the bridge, and then you have the guitar solo, and they really find very interesting ways to kind of get away from formula and just kind of do their own thing. So when you listen to the song, you wouldn't necessarily think of, hey, this is the guitar solo, but that's really what it is. It's the guitar solo. It's not even, I don't even know if I can call it a guitar solo. It's just letting Tony do his thing and just play around and jam. You can definitely feel at this point how comfortable they are with each other. I mean, that's apparent from the outset, but they've really, at this point now, it's 1972. They formed as Earth in 1968, so they've been together for 4 years. They put out now, this is their 4th album as Black Sabbath. You can tell they're very in tune with each other. And something like this little jam session, I'm not sure, now I don't know the history of this part. I don't know if this is something where they just kind of were in the studio and they were just jamming around and they're like, oh, let's put that in. Or if this was something that was kind of rehearsed and planned. I don't know if they even remember because they were on so much drugs at the time. I don't know if they remember themselves how it came about. But, so that's the end of the song. Wheels of Confusion is just phenomenal. Probably one of, if not the strongest album opener of all their albums. It's just, it's great. It infuses, in one song, it infuses so much of what Black Sabbath is. The slower riffs, the more meticulous elements, and then you just got the jam sessions with Tony just going all over the place on the guitar. You have great drums, great bass. Ozzy's got some great vocals in there. And it's everything that really Black Sabbath is, all their different elements wrapped up into one song. And they just do such a phenomenal job. You would think by the time that they're going into their 4th album, they definitely have a level of popularity now. They definitely have an audience. They're definitely touring the world and they're doing all these great things now. You would think that they would kind of play into the convention a little bit. They would play into the popularity. But instead, what they're doing is they're still just making stuff that goes against the grain, that goes against the formula. I mean, at this point, like, is it really the best idea to have the opening of the album be this, like, 6-minute song that has a 2-minute instrumental jam session, and that's not really something that's formulaic. That's just them doing their thing, and you can tell when you listen to their music, they are, before you get into, like, technical ecstasy and stuff, before that, they don't care what people think. They don't care what people expect, and they don't care what people are looking for them to do. They're just going to do what they want to do. And that's just one of the best parts about them as a band, because their music holds up because they don't try to play into what people wanted them to be. They were what they were, and the people who appreciate it will always appreciate it, and the people who don't get it are missing out. Wheels of Confusion is just one of the best embodiments of Black Sabbath. I mean, I'm a purist in that if someone were to ask me, like, where should I start as a Black Sabbath fan? Where should I start listening? I'm going to say the beginning. Start with Black Sabbath, buy Black Sabbath on the album Black Sabbath, and make your way through. That will always be my answer. But if I were to point to, maybe not the definitive one, but one of the songs that I would say most encompasses what Black Sabbath is, Wheels of Confusion would be one of them. Absolutely. Like, for everything that I mentioned, it's top-notch Tony, top-notch Geezer, top-notch Ozzy, top-notch Bill. It's all the different elements that make them unique wrapped up into one song, and it's just such a killer opening. It's such a fantastic opening to the album. And I just think Wheels of Confusion / The Straightener is a fantastic song. So that's all my thoughts on the song. I want to know, what are your thoughts on Wheels of Confusion? Do you agree with everything I'm saying, or do you disagree? Do you have some differing thoughts? Is it maybe not one of your favorites? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. Well, once again, I'm Nathaniel Molnar. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more content, and stick around as we continue on through Volume 4. So until we talk about the next one, Tomorrow's Dream, thank you for watching.